The next idea I have for you is a $100,000 gift. Now, as I said that, doesn't that sound exciting? I'm going to give you $100,000. I mean, you don't even know what the gift is yet, but just the fact that it's $100,000, that sounds like a great gift. Well, now that I have your attention, let me share with you the strategy. I'm obviously not going to give you $100,000 cash, but I'm going to do something that's of equal value. I'm going to share an idea with you that will help you create that $100,000 in cash or more for yourself. And if you're a sales manager, pay close attention to the strategy because you can bring this back in and share the strategy with every member of your sales team. It's called the Sales Maximizer Strategy. And I learned it while reading Entrepreneur Magazine, their annual sales edition. I went down to the bookstore that day. I spent $4 or $5. I purchased their annual sales edition. Little did I know that $4 or $5 investment was going to turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars in increased income for me because I learned the Sales Maximizer strategy years ago, and I'm still able to benefit from the idea. It's an idea on my success tool belt that I can benefit from every day now for the rest of my career. It was an article about Noel Lee, and Noel Lee is the inventor of Monster Cable. Now, you probably know what Monster Cable is. It's that big, giant, thick speaker wire. When you go down to Good Guys or Circuit City, and after you purchase your stereo, they'll often ask you a question. Would you like to learn how to optimize the performance of your stereo? Now, that's a pretty powerful question. If you're selling speaker wire and you just purchased a new stereo and the sales rep says, would you like to learn how to optimize the performance of your new stereo? Well, yeah, I'd love to. And it leads right into a sales presentation on Monster Cable. And so Noel Lee invented Monster Cable out of his garage. He came up with the concept that if you wrapped regular speaker wire really, really thick, it would improve the performance of the stereo. Pretty simple concept, just a little stupid idea, but he took action on it. Happened to be an elegant idea. And he used to go to stereo shows and he would sell the speaker wire out of his van. And at one of these stereo shows, a couple of small companies picked it up, Good Guys and Circuit City, and they began to distribute Monster Cable nationwide. In the beginning, sales per store were a little sluggish, $7,000 of Monster Cable annually in gross sales per store. Noel Lee applied the Sales Maximizer strategy, the strategy that I'm going to share with you right now. Within 12 months, average sales per store went from $7,000 to $28,000 per store, 400% increase. Within 4 years, average sales of Monster Cable exceeded $256,000 per store. How did he do it? He used the Sales Maximizer strategy. I'm going to share it with you right now. It's a metaphor for looking at your business. Now, I'm going to teach you how to think. I'm going to teach you how to generate fresh ideas to improve your sales results. This is what sales superstars do. They don't depend on somebody to tell them, okay, here's what you do here. If the customer says this, then you say that. If they do this, then you do that. No, they have the ability to think. Every sale is different. Remember, it's like a chess match. Every chess game is different. So you look at your business as a chain. And each area of your business, each critical area of success in your business is a link in that chain. And you've all heard the expression, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. So you look at your sales business and you identify the critical areas of success. Each one is a link in your business. Like, are referrals important in your business? Then that would be one critical area of success. Time management, goal setting, presentation skills, product demonstration, objection handling, enthusiasm. Many of these for you. I'm talking to you right now. These are critical areas of success in your business. And so what Noel Lee did is he identified on paper those critical areas of success. Once he identified them on paper, he then rated himself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of those critical areas. Remember, your subconscious will answer whatever question you ask yourself. So you'd say, how would I rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10 and blank? Boom, subconscious would answer it. Then he would ask himself another question, causing him to think, how could I improve the rating by 1? So let's say in goal setting, if Noli had rated himself a 4, he didn't say, how do I go from a 4 to a 10, which is like completely overwhelming. He said, how do I go from a 4 to a 5? And he would write it down. Every 90 days, Noli would come back and he would do the exercise again. He would re-rate himself, identify any new critical areas of success, and ask himself, what could I do to improve my rating by 1? This went on for years. Sales results went from $7,000 a store to $28,000 a store to $250,000 a store. Now the $250, that was from an article years ago. They may be up to $500,000 or more per store now. Okay, so you go, Eric, good idea. All right, let's take it a step further beyond a good idea. Let's do it right now. Let me coach you. I'm going to coach you right now. As you're listening, I'm talking directly to you. I want you to get out your journal, and I want you to ask yourself, what are the critical areas of success in my business? Okay, don't just listen to me. Grab your pen, grab your journal, do this. This is going to make you, I want you to do this exercise as if it's going to generate an extra $100,000 in personal income to you between now and the end of your sales career. If you don't do the exercise, though, it's not going to do anything for you. Okay, write this down right now. What are the critical areas of success in my business? If referrals are important, jot that down. Goal setting, if that's important, jot that down. Rapport skills, if that's important, jot that down. Marketing, enthusiasm, motivation, training. If you're a manager, training. If you recruit people, that's a critical area. Jot that down, recruiting. And I want you to jot down as many of these critical areas. If internet marketing is important, direct mail marketing, follow-up, presentation skills, and you identify these critical areas of success, put them down on paper, see if you can come up with 10. Write them in your journal right now. Once you've come up with your list of 10, and maybe you have more, I want you to give yourself a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these critical areas. Next to it, just write down, okay, goal setting, I'm a 5. Okay, enthusiasm, I'm a 4. Time management, I'm really good at that one. I'm a 7. Okay, and be honest with yourself when you jot these down. Now, once you've rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these areas, now, you should be writing by now. You should be doing this. If you're not, go grab your journal and grab your pencil. Grab your pen and do this. Once you've rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each area, I want you to ask yourself the question, what could I do to improve my rating by 1? Your brain will answer the question, like you to jot it down. There's genius in that question because you're going to come up with a plan that's not overwhelming. And what's powerful about this exercise is once you complete it, you'll have a customized blueprint of action for you that you can immediately start today. So ask yourself, what could I do to improve my time management by 1? Look for simple, easy to implement solutions and jot them down in your notes. What could I do to improve my objection handling by 1? Now you might go, well, Eric, I want to take it to a 10. Not yet. For right now, just by 1. Now here's how you get the extra 100,000. I want you to do this every 90 days. You see, if you just do it once, you're probably not going to make an extra 100 grand. I mean, you could, but you probably won't. But I want you to do this every 90 days. Now, if this is the second or third time that you're listening to this program, you should have by now done this exercise in writing at least once. So if you've listened 2 or 3 times and you haven't done the Sales Maximizer, get your journal, get your pen. I want you to follow through and take action. Now, if you think it's a good idea, if you're in agreement with me that it's good to do it every 90 days, I want you to get out your day planner and schedule it right now. Go grab your day planner or open up your computer to Act or Goldmine or Outlook or whatever you use, and I want you to schedule it for 90 days from today. The reason I want you to put it down in writing, you're 10 times more likely to take action if you write it down. And also this distinction, what doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. If you're a manager, bring this exercise to your next sales meeting. Facilitate your sales team doing this exercise every 90 days. If you're listening and you're not a manager, bring this tape in and share it with your manager and say, listen, we've got to do this. Our company needs this. This one exercise could increase your company's sales results by over $1 million. That's how powerful this concept is. Aren't you glad that 4 or 5 years ago, I picked up that Entrepreneur magazine, grabbed that off the shelf and learned that strategy and have put it onto this program? Because it's going to make a difference for you. It's a tool on my success toolbelt. I have it forever. Now you have it forever. Now you can share it with the salespeople that you care about. Use that strategy. It will make you money. And the next topic we're going to talk about are habits. And the reason that habits are so important is because they determine up to 90% of our behavior. You see, as human beings, we are creatures of habit. We drive to work the same way each day. We return phone calls the same way each time. We go to the same restaurants. We go to bed about the same time every night. We get up about the same time. We have the same foods for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. We are creatures of habit. And if it is true that habits determine up to 90% of your behavior, what are your strong selling habits? What are the habits that you have that allow you to be successful? Think of 3 habits and write them in your notes right now. Habit 1, that's a good one. Okay, jot it down. Habit 2, habit 3. What are 3 habits that you have? Okay, now flip side. What are 3 of your bad selling habits? I'd like you to jot that down in your notes right now. What are 3 of your bad selling habits? Maybe you don't ask for referrals enough. Maybe you don't make enough calls. Maybe you don't ask for the order enough. Maybe you don't plan your day on paper before the day starts. You see, habits don't discriminate. You have good habits and you have bad habits, but they're habits. And you do it over and over and over and over and over again. So let me give you a strategy to turn some of those bad habits into good habits. Wouldn't that be powerful? If we could take some of those negative habits and turn them into empowering sales habits. Step number 1 in changing a habit is recognition. It's identifying that you have a bad habit, and then it's making a decision to change that habit. So step 1 is recognition. Step 2 is making a decision to change. Again, one way to access personal power is to make a decision about how your life is going to be different. Now, you might have heard the expression, it takes 21 days to change a habit. Now, I don't know if it's 21 days or not, but it does take a period of time where it's not yet a habit, but then boom, it becomes a habit. So let's just take those 21 days, or as long as it takes. It's going to require for you to change that habit from a negative to a positive, focus and discipline. Focus and discipline. But here's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Here's the light at the end of the tunnel. You've only got to do it for about 3 weeks, because once it becomes a habit, boom, you're on autopilot now for the rest of your life. What are the 3 habits that are negative that you would like to turn into good selling habits? When will you make a decision now to change those habits to positive habits? What habits will you need to have in order to become a sales superstar? We're now going to speak about the law of averages. Selling is a statistically driven business. The numbers are the numbers are the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. You have statistical ratios in terms of the number of calls it takes to book an appointment. How many calls does it take to get someone on the phone? The average number of referrals that you generate per run appointment. Your average gross sales per run sales call. Your average gross commission per sale, and so forth. Another business built on numbers is Las Vegas. And maybe some of you had this experience, every once in a while my wife and I will go to Vegas for a little vacation. And before we leave, we decide in advance how much money we're going to lose. And we decide that in advance. And then we go there and then we lose that amount. And then we go to the ATM a couple more times and then hopefully that's it. But it's interesting. Why would somebody go to Vegas and budget the amount of money that they're going to lose? The reason is because the odds are not in your favor. Statistically speaking, you're going to lose every single time. You ever notice every time you go to Vegas, or if you've seen pictures of Vegas, every time you go there, they're always building new casinos They're taking this one strip in the downtown area and they keep building larger and larger casinos. You ever wonder where they get the money to build all those casinos? That's right. They get it from us because sales and gambling are both statistically driven businesses. You see, every time you roll dice, there's a probability that you'll get a 2. There's a probability that you'll get a 7. There's a probability that you'll get an 11. And on 10,000 rolls of the dice, the house is always going to win. On 10,000 hands of blackjack, the house is always going to win. Sales is statistical. In the example of Las Vegas, the numbers work against you. But in selling, we can make the numbers work for us. For example, if it takes 25 dials to schedule one appointment, and you need to schedule 4 appointments for the day, you make 100 calls, and by making those 100 dials, the numbers are going to work for you. Now, if you make 100 dials, it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to book 4. It actually doesn't guarantee that you're going to book any. But statistically, over 10,000 phone calls, it virtually guarantees that you'll book 4 appointments on average every 100 calls that you make. Sales superstars understand this. Sales superstars know the numbers. Sales superstars run the numbers. You see, either the numbers work for you or they work against you. Either the numbers work for you or the numbers work against you. Now, when you're making phone calls, perhaps sometimes you make tick marks every time you make a call. You have your little sheet in front of you, you track the call, you make a call, tick mark. Make another call, tick mark. Make another call, tick mark. Maybe you've had this experience. You're asked to make these tick marks, and your manager asks for the report at the end of each day. And so maybe you fudge the numbers a little bit. You're supposed to make 100 calls, so you add some extra tick marks on there. Or maybe you're not so disappointed with it, and you make some calls, and you forget to put the tick marks on there. What I want you to know is that whether you make the tick marks or not, whether you fudge the numbers or not, somebody is watching. The person who's watching is the tick mark God. There is a tick mark God that is keeping track of every single sales activity that you ever make. Every presentation, every time you ask for referrals, every time you don't, every time you make the calls, every time you don't. And they're keeping track of everything. And the master computer, way up in heaven, they're keeping track of all this. You maybe didn't realize that. So here's an example. Let's say that you make 25 dials per set appointment. Your goal is to make 4 appointments for the day. How many calls do you make? Okay, 4 times 25, 100 dials. So now you make 100 dials, and it's one of these off days, and you don't schedule one appointment. I shared with you that the tick mark God is keeping track of everything, and now the universe owes you 4 appointments. Isn't that comforting to know? You will get those 4 appointments. You didn't get them today, but the universe owes you those 4 appointments. Now, the flip side, you're supposed to be making 100 calls to schedule these 4 appointments, but let's say you just get on a roll and you make 10 phone calls. And wouldn't you know it, you book those 4 appointments in those 10 calls. You go, my goal was 4. I'm done for the day. I'm headed to the beach. I'm going to go see a matinee. I'm going to go do whatever. I'm going to go golfing. No, because now if you make the 10 calls, even though you got the goal of 4 appointments, the tick mark God is watching. You now owe the universe 90 dials. Sometimes you get paid today, and sometimes you don't, but you always get paid. Sometimes you get paid today, and sometimes you don't, but you always get paid. Every sales action that you take, you will be fairly compensated. Every sales action that you don't take affects your future income. Because if you think about this, at the very end of your sales career, when it's all said and done, if you look back on your career, it will be a set of statistical ratios. You'll have made X number of thousands of phone calls and scheduled a Y number of appointments. You'll have made this many sales calls and you'll have this much in gross sales. When it's all said and done, your career will be a set of numbers. It will be a set of ratios. So now, having said that, let me share with you one of the most powerful concepts around becoming a sales superstar. This philosophy has made me thousands and thousands of dollars. You see, I'm like you. I'm out in the field selling every single day. And I've been in the field now for the last 10 years. I've personally made over 70,000 phone calls. I've had thousands of people purchase from me, made millions and millions of dollars in sales. And this philosophy has made a tremendous impact in my life. I'll share a quick example of this because it's applicable in many other areas of our life as well. And I'll share this metaphor because many people can relate with this. Many of us have either tried to gain weight or lose weight. And oftentimes, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, it comes down to diet and exercise. And so let's say that there's somebody that they get listening to this program, motivated, inspired. Okay, Eric, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to lose, in fact, 20 pounds. So they have a diet program, they have an exercise program, and they follow it to a T. I mean, they do everything perfect for 2 whole weeks. I mean, they eat exactly what they're supposed to, every exercise that they're supposed to do, impeccable discipline for 2 whole weeks. So then they come over here, they look down at the scale, and wouldn't you know it, instead of losing weight, they gained a pound. And they go, this was so much easier. I didn't have to have the discipline, and I did all this hard work, and I gained a pound. And so then they quit the diet. And the reason why I know that this happens in the majority of the cases is because the diet and exercise industry, each of them are multi-billion-dollar industries. Because people start and stop, they start and stop, they start and they stop. The problem with this is, consider this. If the person, when they stood on the scale and they gained a pound, think about it. If they stayed with the diet, if they stayed with the exercise, do you believe eventually they would achieve their weight outcome? Yeah, I believe that they would. The reason that they don't is because when they looked at the scale, they focused on result and not activity. So here's the strategy I have for you. Focus on activity, not result. Focus on activity, not result. Sometimes you get paid today, and sometimes you don't, but you always get paid. Sales superstars focus on activity, not result. If you absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that you would be fairly compensated for every sales action that you would take, every phone call, every referral, every training, every audio tape, everything, if you absolutely knew that, would that affect the amount of action that you took on a daily basis? You see, I know that to be truth. Sales superstars know that sometimes you get paid today and sometimes you don't, but you always get paid. In fact, just yesterday, I was at a trade show and I had my booth space and I went up for the whole day and thousands of people came by my booth and I sold a whopping 2 books. And what happened was the trade show was not my audience. In shows like that, I would sell hundreds and hundreds of books. But in this particular show, it was the wrong audience. But I didn't know that going in. But my mindset was this. I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't upset. I knew that I would be fairly compensated for being at that show on that day. That's the philosophy. That's the mindset. Okay, here's another thought process. Again, I'm teaching you how to think. It's called the future you concept. And in my public seminars, I'll ask the audience, I'll say, is there anybody here in the room, I'm just curious, good at doing push-ups? And, usually a couple people will raise their hand. I had a woman at one of my recent seminars. She raised up her hand, and I called on her, and I said, well, I have an exercise for you. It involves doing some push-ups. Would you be willing to come up in front of the audience and do some push-ups? She said, sure. So she comes up, and she starts doing the push-ups. And she gets, 10 or 15 push-ups in, and all of a sudden, she pushes herself up, and she's now on one hand. She starts doing one-handed push-ups in front of everybody. And then she rotates to the other hand, and she starts doing one-handed push-ups with the other hand. It turns out that she happened to be an Olympic athlete, and she had qualified for the Olympics recently. And anyway, it was very, very funny to see somebody doing these one-handed push-ups in the program. And so she did her push-ups, and I do this in all my public seminars. And after they're done, we give them a free audio tape, and we give them a hand, and then they go and they sit down. I'll ask the audience, I'll say, now, Mary, who just did her push-ups, or Bob or Joe, whoever it was, their instructions that I gave them were to do their best for the number of push-ups that they could do. And do you feel that Mary Jo or Bob, did they do their best? And I'll ask the audience, raise your hand if you think that they did their best. Half the group will raise their hand. Okay. How many of you feel that they didn't do their best? Again, the other half will raise their hand. And so I'll call in some people and I'll say, well, why don't you feel that they did their best? And here's some of the answers that I get. They're very fascinating thought processes. Sometimes I'll say, well, Eric, they didn't have any preparation time. You just kind of put them on the spot. And so if you had let them know, for example, when they purchased the ticket in the first place, that you were going to have them do push-ups, they probably could have done more. And that's a great point. So one strategy for you to increase your performance is preparation. And then they would say, well, if they had had a goal and there was a prize if they achieved the goal, that might motivate them. And I say, it's funny that you mentioned that because maybe Mary just did 50 push-ups. I'll share with the group and I'll look at Mary. I'll say, Mary, if you had done 51, you would have won $5,000. It's a contest that my company has. So you were one short. And obviously I'm kidding with her. But in all seriousness, if Mary did 50 and there was a prize of $5,000 at 51, she probably would have done it. And so having an incentive oftentimes will push you to do more. Another example that people will share is if Mary had had a goal. And oftentimes Mary will just go up and do the push-ups as many as she can, and she didn't set a goal. And so maybe if she had had the goal of 75, she might have done 60 instead of 50. Now that brings up an interesting discussion. If her goal was 75 and she did 60, which is better, Mary doing 50 with no goal or Mary doing 60 with a goal of 75? And how you answer that question mostly has to do with if you have a fear of failure. You see, the person who fears failure would rather do 50 than the person who has a goal of 75 and does 60. Because the person who fears failure in that example will feel as though they failed to achieve their goal, even though they did more than they would have done without the goal. Now, the more you listen to this little section of the tape, the more you'll understand what I'm saying. Because many people never set goals that stretch them because they're afraid of failing. All of the goals that they set are goals that are easily attainable. Now, I want you to think about, am I speaking to you right now? Are you the type of person who only will set goals that you can achieve because of fear of failure? And if you're one of those people, what I'm going to share with you right now can transform your business, sales, and life results. The purpose of a goal is to stretch you. The purpose of a goal is to stretch you. If you set a goal and don't achieve it, you didn't fail. It just means that you set a goal and you didn't achieve it. Okay, I'm going to say that again. If you set a goal and you didn't achieve it, it didn't mean you failed. It simply meant that you set a goal and you didn't achieve it. In my company, over the last 4 years, until recently, the biggest public seminar that my company had ever put on was 220 people. We typically averaged 50 people to 200 per public seminar, and that had been going on for 4 years. We were on a plateau. Do you remember the strategy about plateaus? Endure the plateaus. In a book called Mastery by George Leonard says, learn to love the plateaus. I say endure the plateaus. He says learn to love them. So we were on this plateau for 4 years, 50 to 200 people per program. And I wanted bigger programs. And an opportunity presented itself for me to do a giant seminar with Mark Victor Hansen, Robert Allen, Dr. Moyne, who's now my business partner, and Ben Gay III, who's a great friend of mine. He's the author of The Closers Part 2. And he also is the editor of The Closers Part 1. And he's a phenomenal sales trainer. If you ever have the opportunity to study Ben Gay's work, he has incredible, incredible ideas. And he's one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. And so I had the opportunity to do this event with 4 of the most powerful trainers in the world today, plus myself. And my company was responsible for selling 100% of the tickets. Now, when you go to speakers of this caliber and you say, Mark Victor Hansen, Robert Allen, Dr. Moyne, Ben Gay, hey, let's all get together and let's do a seminar. I'll get you in front of 200 people. Isn't that exciting? Well, it's not very exciting when you're some of the world's greatest speakers. And so I didn't approach them and say, let's do a 200-person program. I approached them and I said, I commit 1,000 people at the program. And Robert Allen asked me, he says, well, Eric, what's the biggest seminar that you've ever done? I said, well, Robert, the biggest seminar I've ever done is 220 people. Well, Eric, what makes you think that you're going to see 1,000? I said, Robert, I'm committed. I will see 1,000. And so we set this goal to have 1,000 people at the program. Now, I was not afraid of failing. If I was afraid of failing, I never would have pursued the goal in the first place, because I've now committed to 4 of the most powerful speakers in the world. My reputation's on the line. My company's reputation is on the line. And if I was afraid of failure, I never would have tried. The purpose of a goal is to stretch you. So we made this commitment. And then here's a strategy I learned from Anthony Robbins that's helped me become a sales superstar. And it's this: put yourself in a position that demands that you succeed. Put yourself in a position that demands that you succeed. And one of Tony's most famous stories, I've heard it at least a dozen times, it's one of my favorite Anthony Robbins stories, is when he purchased his castle. And it was when he was first getting started in his business, and he had never earned over $40,000 in a year before. And he bought the castle, and there was 4 balloon payments that first year of $100,000. So he had to come up with $100,000 4 separate times in year 1, and he had never made over $40,000 in a year. Tony was committed. He used his resources. He put himself in a position that demanded that he succeed, and he was able to make those 4 payments and live in this wonderful castle. And so that story has given me the courage many times to step out on a limb and attempt the impossible. And so we set this goal for 1,000 people. The seminar came. We had 1,250 people at that program. Unbelievable. One of the most powerful experiences of my entire life. Created these amazing business relationships with 4 of the top trainers in the world today. And from that, Mark Victor Hansen and I next year will be teaching 4 one-day sales mastery programs throughout the United States in San Jose, Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. Dr. Moyne and I are now going to be teaching 4 advanced sales mastery boot camps in San Jose, Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. And my business has exploded from setting that goal. Now, what if I had been afraid of failure? I would have never pursued the opportunity in the first place. Purpose of a goal is to stretch you. So I would talk with the audience a little bit more, back to our example of Mary doing the push-ups. And I share with the audience that Mary did not do her best, although she may have done her best in the moment. She did not do her best because she could do some more tomorrow. In a week from now, she probably could do 60. In a month from now, she probably could do 70. In a year from now, she probably could do 80. Based on the future you principle, there exists a future you that has the potential to produce results far superior to the results that you're currently producing. You and only you can access this potential. There exists in you a future you that has the potential to produce results far superior to the results that you're currently producing. You and only you can access this potential. In other words, there exists in you a future sales superstar that you and only you can access. There's a sales superstar inside of you. The question is, will you be disciplined? Will you take the actions to become this future sales superstar? In Mary's example, a year from today, she could do 80 push-ups. The question is, will she? It's up to her. If she puts the work in, if she hires the coach, if she's disciplined, she can produce the result. I built my whole company on this one idea. Remember, sales superstars, they understand how to think. I started my business 4 years ago out of a spare bedroom in my condo. And I built it up. Now we have a beautiful 2,500 square foot office. I have 17 people that now work for me. This next year, our goal is to do over $4 million in sales. And I built the business based on the future you principle. I knew I wouldn't always be in my spare bedroom in my condo. I knew that one day I'd have an office. I knew that one day I would teach seminars throughout the world. And a few months ago, I was hired to fly to Malaysia, where I taught my sales mastery boot camp to a group in Malaysia. All that happened based on the future you principle. Here are 3 reasons why salespeople fail. Number 1, they don't make enough calls. Number 2, they don't ask for the order enough. And number 3, they don't have a written plan for the day. They don't make enough calls, they don't ask for the order enough, and they don't have a written plan for the day. I want you to give yourself a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of those 3 areas. How would you rate yourself at making enough calls? 10 being great, 1 being not so good. 2, do you ask enough? 1 to 10. Do you have a written plan for each day? Give yourself a rating, 1 through 10. Now I want you to look at your ratings. Did you score a perfect 10 in all 3 of those areas? One time in one of my public seminars, I had somebody say, Eric, do you mean a 10 combined? A 10 combined. One time I had a woman say, I wish I had a 10 combined, which is a scary thought. Sales superstars score strong in those 3 areas. Make a decision today to increase the number of calls you make, increase your ability to ask, and to have a written plan for the day. And I'd like to now review the concept of asking questions. Remember, your subconscious will answer whatever question you ask yourself. In addition to asking yourself questions, we also can powerfully increase our results by asking others. And one of my good friends is Mike Littman. His website is MikeLitman.com. And Mike is an amazing individual, truly connected in the personal development industry. Provides me tons of referrals, connects me with all these amazing people. He's a great friend and he's a great resource for you. I highly endorse any of his books, tapes, seminars, and newsletters. He has a free email newsletter that you can sign up for on his website. Mike came out with his book called Conversations with Millionaires. And Mike always had a dream to have a best-selling book. And he and his partner and co-author Jason Omar, they wrote the book together. And the book was being released, and they wanted to go to number 1 on Amazon.com. And so Mike sent me an email, and he said, Eric, I need your help. Would you help me by purchasing my book on Amazon.com on this certain day? And we're going to tell all of our best clients and tell them to tell all of their clients to go to Amazon.com and buy Conversations with Millionaires on this certain day. So, Eric, would you, 1, buy some books, and 2, let your clients know to buy some books? I said, Mike, no problem. I'm happy to do that for you. What did Mike do? He asked. He asked for help. So the day came, I contacted my clients, I purchased some books, because the way that Amazon.com has its best sellers is it's updated by the hour. So if you flood Amazon.com with orders for your book, and there's this concentrated effort, marketing effort, you too could go to number 1. Mike's very first book, Conversations with Millionaires, went to number 1 on Amazon.com. It continues to be one of their best sellers. How did Mike do that? He simply asked. In my one-day sales mastery courses, I have an incredible fun exercise. I tell everybody, take out a dollar bill and a business card. Go ahead and do that for me now, please. Take out a dollar bill and a business card. And so everyone in the audience, if they have a business card and a dollar bill, they do that. And then I say, okay, everybody, do you have your dollar bill and your business card out? Okay, great. Go ahead and pass them to the center. And then people are like confused. They're asking each other questions, and they begin to pass the dollar bills to the center. Many of them will take the dollars and they'll fold the dollars up around the business card to make sure that I know it was their dollar. And so I get all the business cards, and then there's a buzz in the audience. You know, people are frustrated. They're upset that, what's he doing? That's my dollar. And then I stop the seminar and I say, well, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How did I get all these dollar bills? And they go, you asked. I said, that's right. And I hold the dollar bills up and I let the audience know. I said, I want you to imagine that instead of these being dollar bills, they're $1,000 bills. So picture in your mind right now, I'm holding up about 200 $1 bills. So it's now $200,000 in cash. And as I'm holding the money up, can you picture that in your mind right now? I say to the audience, you can have this money by simply asking. I always get someone in the audience go, Eric, can I have the money? And I say, no, you can't. I'm allowed to say no. but you can't have the money because it's not mine. It belongs to everybody here in the audience. You can have anything that you want in your life by becoming a master of asking. I want you to think about that right now. How effective are you at asking? Asking for the order, asking for additional sales, asking for testimonials, asking for whatever it is that you need more of in your life. And then what we end up doing is we give everybody their dollar bill back. I announced to the audience that if anyone would like me to autograph their dollar bill and put a success slogan on it, that I'll sign the dollar bill for them. And so if you, as you're listening right now, if you would like me to autograph a dollar bill for you, send me one in the mail and I'll autograph it and send it back with a success slogan. And I encourage them to turn that dollar into a miracle dollar, to never spend it, and to have that be a reminder to them to master asking. What if you made a decision right now in this moment to ask more? How would your life be different?